service those debt.
Yeah.
You have got a 1 billion bailout. I kind of understand it. It's part and parcel of American dependence on Pakistan for Afghan and Central Asian outreach. You know, India will have to live with it. But India is setting its own realism.
Yeah.
Jaishankar spoke about that there is a Russian realism. Trump says there is an American realism. We are defining Indian realism.
Stay with us, Kartikeya. We have Amod Rai, our correspondent, now joining us on the phone line to get more details. Amod Rai, talk to us. Government of India sources telling us that future attacks, future terror attacks will mean it's an act of war. Right, we don't have Amod Rai on the phone line at the moment. We're just trying to reconnect with him to get the latest details. But for all those who just tuning into this broadcast, big breaking news coming in. India saying that any act of terror by Pakistan, any future act of terror by Pakistan will be considered an act of war. I'm going back to the same question, Kartikeya. When they say act of terror, does it mean a terror attack by terrorists trained by Pakistan, or any attack by the Pakistani forces on Indian soil or on Indian civilians? Because, you know, one way of defining act of terror is when you have shelling on residential areas in India, whereas the war is between military installations at best.
See, you know, if I really have to answer your question, there are two parts of it.
Okay.
The first part of your question is redefine. What is being redefined? Power matrix is being redefined. How are we redefining power matrix with a nuclear armed nation? We are saying that there will be no lines of Rubicon. There will be no Lakshman Rekha. What is a Lakshman Rekha in war? You don't hit my air bases.
Yes.
You don't hit my air defense structure. You don't hit my areas where VVIP infrastructure is parked. You don't hit planes. What have we done? After Pakistan tried using those Turkish Asgard drones, and they send them to Udhampur, Avantipura, Nal, Bhuj, Bathinda, Chandigarh, Jammu, Samba, Pathankot, the biggest cantonment in Asia. What did we do? We send them the message. We send our drone to a place where all their UAVs are parked.
Right.
Then we send our drones to an area where all their important transport planes are parked, which are used by the presidents and the prime minister and the army chief. Then we targeted the base, Sargodha, where J-17s are parked. So basically we gave them a message. And secondly, people have not seen the big shift. The big shift is that India has moved from the Kargil days, infantry to infantry fight, contact. We are actually in the big league now. Krishna, just remember 1991.
I do.
Was there a contact between Iraqi soldiers and American soldiers in the first 15 days? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
America pulverized their radar system, softened up the entire area, took their all air systems out. That's
contactless warfare.
It became a contactless warfare.
Yeah.
What's happening in Ukraine right now?
Again,
Russia?
same drones. It's
drones.
Yeah.
So we have also entered into the same battlefield with the same strength. The only thing which we have not used, and I know that's a big part of big gig, and I'm sure, I hope uski zarurat na pade. That's the naval infrastructure.
Right. Stay with us. So we also have my colleague Brijesh Pandey joining us from the newsroom. Brijesh, this is the wording of this latest is very, very important. Future act of terror. We're still trying to understand, how it's going to play out going forward, isn't it? That distinction between terror and war. Any more terror and there will be war is what India is saying.
I think, Krishna, it's a huge tectonic shift as far as policy is concerned. Why I'm saying so is because I think, the government has articulated in as many words that enough is enough. And now if Pakistan indulges in any act of terror in this country, it will be treated as an act of war. And I think, by this policy decision, it has also put pressure on the Western powers and other big countries who play the role of facilitator, countries like America, Russia, China and other countries, powerful Western countries who play the role of mediator, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, on them that they should lean upon Pakistan and tell them that now you cannot practice this kind of act with India, because if you say that any act of terror is war, which means that next time this act happens, then the government reserves all the right within its arsenal to go full-fledged as far as taking on Pakistan is concerned. You and Kartikeya were discussing about how the grammar of fight has changed, from face to face, from infantry to infantry, how the Air Force and with now drones and all, making a kind of complete 180-degree change as far as how the modern warfare is fought. And I think with this kind of policy decision, India has upped the ante several notches up, and I think it is going to send a very strong message not only to Pakistan but also to the Western countries, because the way the system or the matrix of this world works is that if something happens in your country, they are kind of sympathetic. If you look at the language in which their press, whether it be New York Times or Washington Post or many other newspapers, the way they cover it looks like kind of sympathetic on part of them being sympathetic on the part of terrorists who have carried out these kind of dastardly action. But if anything of 1/100th of magnitude happens on their soil, it becomes unimaginable, like crime against humanity. So I think the government is also pushing for a parity, and that is the reason why, if you remember, in the last 10 days, 15 days, the External Affairs Minister has been very, very clear and acerbic when it comes to this kind of duplicity practiced by Western nations. So I think this particular decision taken by the government definitely ups the ante several notches, and it is going to be very, very interesting to see how other countries react to this.
And Brijesh Pandey there joining us. Brijesh, stay with us. Kartikeya, you were going to say something.
There's a larger casualty here. Maybe we will discuss it at some other time. This entire gamut also kills the idea of South Asia. You have a East Asian Economic Corridor. Pakistan has actually killed the larger idea of South Asia. It has done the biggest disservice, because of the war it is trying to inflict on India. It has killed an idea. It has killed economic interlinkages. The ramification of Pakistan generally in press, people are talking in context of drones, Turkish drones. It's much larger. They have actually destabilized a very prosperous area.
Yeah.
Pakistan has no economy of its own. India is an economic superpower. Let us not forget, there was a time when Indira Gandhi, despite winning the war, there was inflation in this country. Now we can very proudly say that our economy is the 4th biggest in the world.
Soon to be 3rd.
It's going to be 3rd. We are very proud Indians today. We are about to become a super economic power, and we should be proud of it. And Pakistan, and that's where the challenge is. We can answer Pakistan militarily, but that's where the challenge is. Pakistan has nothing to do. It's like an alcoholic state. It's like a dysfunctional state.
And that's exactly why it's behaving the way it does.
It has nothing. And
it has nothing to lose.
It has nothing to lose, and that's what Munir understands. Only thing Munir wants is 5 years for himself and nothing else.
Yeah.
Imagine, he's looking from the perspective of 5 years. But I think it's a very important step which the government of India today has taken by saying that they do not distinguish between a conventional act of hostility an act of terrorism, because the liability to prove what is right or wrong
will be on Pakistan.
Group
Captain V.N. Jha is also with us on this broadcast. Kartikeya, please stay with us. Brijesh, stay with us. Group Captain V.N. Jha, India is defining, it's a new policy definition of what it's going to consider as provocation, escalation and war. Terror equals war is the new definition, isn't it, Group Captain V.N. Jha?
Well, I hope this government, as well as all future government, understands the language that it is right now being spelled out, that all acts of terror will be considered as war. It has not been earlier. Krishna, me and you, we know. I have seen India bleeding so many times, right since the 80s. It has been happening here. Acts of terror have been mounted there several times. In numerous life that have been lost here. And every time the government of the day would say that we will take a credible action, we will make a lesson for the Pakistan to learn that they don't repeat it. But they ordinarily repeat it. So, look, it's very easy to say what you are saying today, or what some spokesperson or Jaishankar, if someone has spoken like this, it's good to hear it. But when you take it as an act of war, what do? Do you on that day, are you prepared to carry out a war onto the enemy state? No, you will not be. Will you need these 13, 14 days of preparation and mount of credible war onto the warmongers, those jihadi elements? And Pakistan will hit you like this. Today, what has been happening, what we are seeing today, yesterday, day first day, we are on the defensive. There is no denial about it that we are on the defensive. And it goes against the military ethics, military doctrine, that if you have power, if you have credibility, put your enemy on the defensive, put them on the mat so that they are unable to launch attack onto you. But reverse
Right.
has we have been seeing, last 3 days, we are seeing so many
I
of
think
the
that
critical attacks.
okay. You may okay. That's a strong point you have
Exactly.
made, sir.
It's a very important point.
General Roy, would you agree with it?
Could I complete this, what I was saying?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
what I heard was that.
Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy, please stay with us. Let Mr. Group Captain V. N. Jha please finish his point. Group Captain V. N. Jha, please finish your point.
So what I was saying, that what we are saying, the repeated concerted attack onto the Indian territory, not at one place, all across the line of control. It's an open war. They have hit our military bases. The bases where I have served, I knew there was a credible defense system, but yet they have mounted attack. Though Indian armed forces must be praised for their today's preparations of the air defense system, that most of such attacks have been foiled. But that is beside. Pakistan will do again the same thing what they are doing today. But today's government, we are the people, we are generation of the yesteryears. What we have seen in our days, that is different today. Today there is a military leadership, there is a hierarchy, there is a Raksha Mantralaya, there is CDS, there is national advisors, PM Modi's directorate are there. I'm sure they must be taking decision in the best interest of India.
Right.
We have absolutely no doubt about it, that taking today's preparedness of the armed forces, today's capability of the armed forces, they are taking a decision. But when you say that in future, every act of terror will be taken as act of war, I will just remind you, 22nd of April is one, but not far before, 9th of April, Kishtwar, there was a terrorist attack. 24th of March in Katwa, there was a terrorist attack. 11th February, Sundarbani, there was a terrorist attack. 24th October, Gulmarg, there was a terrorist attack. 20th December, Gandarbal, Anantnag, and about 2 dozens of severe attack in the last June, July that we have seen. It has all happened. Did
Right.
we go to war? Did we go to war?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
we.
So I think,
Fair
sir,
point.
I think you have made your point. General
Yeah.
Roy, I would like you to come on this, sir. General Roy.
Yeah, I've got it. Listen, now look here. You see, all this that has been spoken by Group Captain Jha is a thing of the past as of now onwards. Not only that, even the present action which has been going on since 7th of May, if I may say so, in last 4 days, that is 7, 8, 9, 10, not a word has come from Pakistan regarding those 3 terrorist outfits of whose camps were stuck, who were spread across those 9 camps. Not one word has come from them. And I think this policy decision which has been taken by Government of India, it was just waiting to happen. If you really ask me, this policy decision should have been taken maybe 20 years back. But that did not happen. At least now all the circumstances which have gathered themselves in a manner that they have, at the first time from 22nd April to 7th of May, when the response was given to Pakistan, it has taken just about 2 weeks. I would say from the armed forces point of view, it is still a response time which is much, much shorter than what would have been the case. My own assessment was spreading maybe 1 to 2 months, but this thing has happened within 2 weeks. So let me just tell you and the viewers also that once the Government of India has taken a policy decision that any act of terrorism from across will be taken as an act of war, definitely the armed forces would be prepared to give this response within 4 to 6 hours. And unless that capability has been foreseen and discussed by the Government of India, such a policy decision would not have been taken. So before we take out a policy decision, we assess our capabilities, we assess our arsenal and say that whether we can implement this policy or not. All the nuances, all the angles of a policy are taken into consideration before a policy decision is given. Because Government of India is not the one, it's a Government of India decision. And it is not the one that some policy decision has been taken today and it will be reversed after a year or two. No. This is a policy decision which is going to stay because we have now been a victim of terrorism for last over 3 decades. And we have also seen that the world time and again tries to intervene without having any stakes that they have. Stakes are ours, and the referee is from somewhere else. So this becomes a very uncontrollable situation, that when terrorism is going on, nobody comes forward. But when we try to punish that country which has done this act, then they come forward as the referee. Therefore, I think this was waiting to happen. It's an excellent decision, excellent policy decision that the government of India has taken, which was just waiting to happen. And this has also been initiated for one very simple fact, that for 4 days, whatever has been on, government of Pakistan has not even once regretted anything at all that they have done on 22nd of April. Not only that, after these camps were struck and whatever casualties happened in those 9 terror camps, when they were being given funeral to rub salt into the wounds, what you see is that all these dahshatgardis have been backed up by the Vardidharis. I mean, that was something way beyond for anybody to digest.
Well, and in fact, they call the killed terrorists as civilians. That's what Pakistan said. You've killed civilians on our soil.
But please tell me that, do you wrap the body of a civilian in your national flag?
Yeah.
Do you carry the janaza of civilians on your shoulders with the Pakistan army wearing those army uniforms? Surely all that they've spoken, I mean, their lies have come out so much in the open. Their lies have come out so much in the open that I don't have words to even describe. No nation behaves in a manner that
General Roy, there's something which I would like to ask you. Fair enough. This should have happened. This should have happened 20 years ago. Then how do you operationalize? This is like doctrine. How do you operationalize it? Because there's also a fine point, which events would be treated as an act of war, which events will not be picked as an act of war. Can you shed light on it? Because Kashmir is a war theatre, literally, because of Pakistan.
Lieutenant Rameshwar, the question here is that what exactly will constitute that act of terror that will become an act of war? Because if it is it only by terrorists backed by Pakistan, or is it the Pakistani military as well?
You see, the issue is that, like on a crime scene, there are certain telltale signs which will tell you as to who would have committed that crime. Okay. And in this particular case, I've been operating in J&K for all my life. I can tell you for sure that whenever such a strike or terror strike takes place, within hours we are able to collect, which is very much on the ground in terms of the arms, ammunition, equipment, weapons, and whatever is found there. Those telltale signs do point to a country who would have initiated this. And in our case, there is no other country. We have no common borders with anybody else who is doing this kind of a job. The point is very simple, that entire terrorism mechanism, all the camps, all the launch pads, everything comes from our western borders.
Right.
I don't think we are in any iota of doubt. Surely they are not coming from Bangladesh. Surely they are not coming from China. Surely they are not coming from Nepal or Bhutan. We know from where they are coming. And therefore the telltale signs are so easily picked up by us. Not only that, even much before that, even when the infiltrations happen, we have got those telltale signs available to us, and those encounters happen. So therefore, I don't think we will take much time to know this. And the moment that verified, we are going to strike them. And that, more than that, the policy decision of this nature itself will deter Pakistan. It's like a deterrence. You have seen the nuclear deterrence hasn't worked until today, and they have been trying to do this under the shadow of this nuclear deterrence, which has been their nuclear bogey.
Right.
Here, the declaration would force them not to undertake this unless they are prepared to take on the reactions which will happen. And I can tell you those reactions will happen within 4 to 6 hours.
Right, Lieutenant Rameshwar Roy, Group Captain VN Jha, stay with us. We're talking about Pakistan and Pakistan's embedded link with terrorism. We have my colleague Kabir Naqvi joining us now. Kabir, talk to us. There is an Osama bin Laden link to Pakistan and Pakistan's military establishment, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, when Osama bin Laden was finally apprehended, that Barack Obama-led operation, when it was carried out, it was about, a couple of 100 meters away from a military establishment as well. General Roy was talking about the lies that have now come out, the fake propaganda, the misinformation. And, at the center of it all is the ISPR, the Inter-Services Public Relations. And the DG of the ISPR is this gentleman called Sharif Chaudhry, Ahmad Sharif Chaudhry. And this is not just any ordinary person, because whilst coming up the ranks, he's attained this powerful position of being the powerful media arm, the propaganda arm of the Pakistan military. Let's tell you quickly about this man and the lineage that is of course shadowed, and this man, Osama bin Laden, what role he has to play here. So Ahmad Sharif is, first and foremost, let me tell all the viewers, he's the son of nuclear scientist, a celebrated nuclear scientist in Pakistan, Sultan Bashiruddin Mahmud. But the problem here is that the celebrated nuclear scientist had ambitions. He had ambitions that harbored more than just, chemicals. He had, of course, evil pure play at over there as well. You had Bashiruddin, who founded this group called Umma Tamir-un-Naw, UTN, which was subsequently termed as a global terrorist group. This was later banned for its terrorist links in 2001 as well. But here's where the story gets a little bit interesting, because Bashiruddin was sanctioned by the UN for links with Taliban, and after the 9/11, some revelations told us that this gentleman, Bashiruddin, of course, had links with the Al-Qaeda. He had met Mullah Omar as well. So right after that, he's meeting Osama bin Laden, Mullah Omar, and the agenda, well, you guessed it, it was the nuclear talks. He met Osama bin Laden and Mullah Omar in 2001 to discuss the nuclear weapons. And this is not just mere speculations, because United States, the UK intelligence, the United Nations, they all confirmed UTN's role and their linkages, heavy linkages with Al-Qaeda, and then went on to ban this group as a global terrorist outfit. US and UK intelligence confirming UTN's Al-Qaeda connections, and that's the shadowy, link and legacy that we're talking about, the DG of ISPR. Bashiruddin was arrested. He was later declared a UN designated global terrorist, but here's the catch. Bashiruddin was never tried for his sins, for his evil doings, for his illegal maneuvers and global terrorism. Ahmad, his son, well, he rose in the military ranks, but his father's radical past, it still continues to loom on. So the big question that one today has to ask, Krishna, is that can you, of course, separate a man from his legacy that is shadowed, that is evil at its core? And this is another example, ladies and gentlemen. This is another example that Pakistan's biggest export, it is terrorism, be it the terror hubs that we flattened and completely obliterated, be it time and again that their ministers have come out with their gaps and their slips of tongues telling us that they've been doing the dirty work for the West for the last so many years, and of course these terror hubs that have been found out as well. So what more evidence does the world at this point in time need? The DG of ISPR, Ahmad Sharif Chaudhry, and his shadowed legacy and lineage in front of the world.
But we shouldn't be surprised about it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be surprised about it.
Yeah.
If you look at the way Pakistan army has been radicalized after Ziaul Haq in 80s, the whole complexion has changed. So Munir is a product of a school within Pakistan. That is why he's not. No other general was called jihadi general. He's called a jihadi general. One. Secondly, it's also counter-radicalization. Please do not forget, in an attack in which PC-3 Orion were destroyed, $1 billion plane, a couple of years ago, the intelligence to then Taliban was provided by the retired, radicalized Air Force officers, and the children were involved. That's number one. When the attack on Musharraf took place, again radicalized military officials of Pakistan were involved, because there was a Manmohan Musharraf arrangement on a line of control. That's number two. And secondly, it's like you radicalize someone, the person back radicalizes your institution. So Pakistani army has undergone that process because of its involvement in Afghanistan, Taliban 1, Taliban 2, Tehreek-e-Pakistan, TTP. In fact, the entire Sirajuddin Haqqani, which is known as Haqqani Network, which runs half of Kabul and Afghanistan, was financed by Pakistan. Today, Haqqani Network is very powerful, doesn't listen to its masters, but Haqqani Network was created by them at their behest, every one of them. And
headquartered in Pakistan.
Yes, and lastly and foremost, you see, I can say this with great sincerity. These terrorists are not terrorists. They are frontline soldiers of Pakistani army. They are not like Indian army, professional army.
Yeah.
They're not even like Americans. They're not even like...
They're not like any other army
They're
in the
not
world.
even like the Brit army. they are part of the armed apparatus. They had to go. You know, if they wouldn't have gone, it would have impinged on them. It would have been a domestic liability. They had to show solidarity because you have those frontline soldiers. You read all the accounts of the first Taliban government. You had Pakistani regulars fighting there. And this was replicated in a different way in Kargil. And again, 1948 incursions. A lot of people don't read history. You know, the people said, ये तो वो मुजाहिदीन आ गए थे और वो कबाली आ गए थे. नहीं, कबालियों के भेष पे Pakistani regulars were there, and the Indian army stopped them. So, you know, this osmosis is something we have to understand, that there's a radicalization of Pakistani society. This romanticism needs to be thrown out of the window. I've been to Afghanistan on number of occasions. I've traveled from Ghazni to Mazar-e-Sharif. I've been to Samamgam, Bagram, I've seen it. You know, the template changes from Pakhtun dominated areas to Hazaras. And I can tell you that Pakistan's problem is emanating from their problem with now Pakhtuns. And they're trying to divert it here because this general who is so insecure wants to have another 5 years. It's a complicated situation in contradiction of the Pakistani army, nature of the Pakistani army, manifesting itself through the state-sponsored act of terror.
Right.
There's a larger picture at play. We think it was just an act of terror. No, there is no just an act of terror. It's part and parcel of a larger play. Why did Musharraf do Kargil? You know, these are the answers we should seek. You know, why did Benazir Bhutto's father, who came and said, no, I'm here for treaty, I'm here for peace, and then he went back and said, घास भी खाएंगे पर खाएंगे लेकिन बम बनाएंगे. We have to understand the nature of Pakistan.
The DNA of
politics.
Pakistan.
We have to understand the nature of its army. It's a different stage. You've got to be there to understand that.
Group Captain V.N. Jha, Pakistan is an army where you don't know where the army ends and terrorism begins, the radicalization begins. It is an integral part of the entire establishment and has been so, as Kartikeya is telling us, since the 1980s, and nothing has changed. So things have only gotten from bad to worse. And that's exactly why we have this new policy.
I must thank Kabir for having, presented what it was there. I must thank Karthik for bringing out this. Look, Pakistan society is like this. It is only the world which has got a very short memory. I'll just take you about 6 years back that none of you have spoken till now. When Imran Khan had gone to Washington to meet Donald Trump, on camera, he had said that at that time, there were 43 jihadi organizations in Pakistan who had about 30 to 40,000 terrorists, whom in those crunch days, Imran had to feed. That was his words. And from that time, the things have moved forward. As on today, there are about 60 jihadi organizations in Pakistan, out of which just about a dozen and a half are India-centric, like Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Harkatul Jihad, Harkatul Mujahideen, Harkatul Ansar, Al-Badr, Al-Barq, Al-Faran, Al-Jihad. Things like that, about a dozen and a half are India-centric. Now, fair enough. So these are the 60 jihadi organizations in Pakistan. But matter doesn't end there. Don't narrow your vision to a small thing. In world today, there are more than 300 jihadi organizations. And the names that we have taken, not even 3 of them are part and parcel of the 50 major jihadi organizations. Think of Abu Shaf, Al-Badr, Al-Barq, Al-Faran, Al-Qaeda and their regional affiliates, Al-Shabaab, Al-Ansar, Al-Nusra, Boko Haram, 3 major wings of Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah and Houthi, Haqqani network we have already named, Harkat, and you can keep on going. ISIS has got the regional affiliates in all major continents. So like this, there are major jihadi factions. Today, in Pakistan, these all have got some or other link. All these 300 are formed by the affiliations of one or other Islamic nations. They may have direct involvement, or they may have just funded it, or they have supported it. So it's the picture of the day today. Today, government of India can't make a blunder that wipe out the jihadi network from there. We are seeing Israel trying to do that same for 1.5 years in a small stretch of land called Gaza, but they have not been able to do that. And instead, there have been a lot of collateral, injuries, the deaths with which world is today crying, asking Israel to stop. So that is the type of things that we see. Now, when you say that any act of terror is going to be an act of war, it is a very good word, very fancied word. I'll compliment Major General who have just spoken. But these are the fragile verse, very good verses. When you put into the practice for hitting Pakistan for any act of terror, think of the steps that you will be going through for hitting one small jihadi operations, 3 of them. Right now, we have taken 13 days of preparation, 12 days of preparations,
right.
And that war we are facing it here right now. It's a war. It's a war mounted onto us. And remember, in the entire history of the world, if India doesn't give the bleeding nose to Pakistan for mounting this war, Indian military will be having a black spot onto its performance or onto its legacy.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Right, Group Captain V, and just stay with us, Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy. Also stay with us, Brijesh. This has been one of the most definitive statements that have come from the Indian government since Pahalgam, in fact, so to speak, isn't it? That's what has changed. Pahalgam has changed India's way of dealing with Pakistan-backed terrorism. So, which means that now the ball now lies firmly in Pakistan's court to prove that it is not engaging in any act of terror, because otherwise the consequences have been laid out to them.
Well, Krishna, I've been listening with absolute riveting this thing with the kind of fascinating conversation which was going on. But, there are 3-4 things which we have to clearly understand. Is this the first time Pakistan has indulged in act of terror? Is it a perpetrator of war? Blending of ideological and of the mercenaries and the Pakistani armies. Pakistan being, the cradle of terror, if I may use the term. Everyone knows about it. When Osama bin Laden was captured and killed and was later, disposed of, where was he captured from? Is America not aware of what is happening in Pakistan? Everyone knows everything. So, the point is that I completely disagree with General when he said that, this particular policy will act as deterrent. It will not act as deterrent. Till now, what history has taught us is that irrespective of whatever you put on the front, it doesn't act as a deterrent for Pakistan. Because Pakistan knows one thing very, very clearly. There are bigger powers at play here. And the bigger powers at play will always protect their own. I will give you a case in point, 26/11. A minnow was given, who was dubbed as, as the architect and all. All this fancy media play is absolutely all right. But was he the bigger player? The biggest player is sitting there in America, David Headley. Did you get an unfettered access to David Headley? I'm sorry, you did not. You get a very conditioned access to David Headley. So the point is that, I would say that this might act as a deterrent for superpowers that, now India's patience is running thin and they might enter into, given the domestic compulsions, they might enter into war, which might be ruinous for Pakistan, or the entire, scenario may change and they may step in. But other than that, whatever we have discussed is out in the open. Everyone knows about it.
Right.
The point is that is any country doing anything about it? 28 innocent soldiers have been killed. IMF has not stopped a penny. They have given $1 billion in this thing. So where, we will have to force the world to listen to, or, raise the cost to a level where, the world would realize that if we keep on not looking, if we keep on looking the other way, there's no way this situation can move forward. It's very tempting to compare ourselves with Israel and all. But if you look at the way Israel has panned out and the community and the kind of stranglehold they have as far as the United States is concerned, that is the only reason they have been able to carry out these operations with absolute impunity. But can India do that is a $1 billion question. And will Indian Army be in a state of preparedness for such a long time that, that every act of terror can be converted into an act of war? I think, it's time to push the boundary a bit when it comes to other countries as well. It is time to hold these powers accountable who openly say that, yes, we are best of friends with India. But when it comes to display that act of friendship, it's never visible. Because it's like, you're walking the talk. Is the walking the talk there? No, it is not there. So I'm just saying that, it is time for India to also launch a mega offensive as far as the duplicity of the foreign powers is concerned. Because until unless you stop that, until unless you plug that, there is no way you can, because this is what Pakistan has been doing for like last 30, 40 years, since
There's no way to reign in Pakistan.
So, I mean, we are behaving like ostrich if we say that, this has happened just now, we are going to change everything. Until unless the bigger powers understand that India is playing an end game, which is like, there's come what may, we are going forward and we are not going to stop. Until unless this comes that, that the kind of, it's presented as fait accompli kind of a situation, I don't think much will change, You may have a couple of big busts, 50 people will die. They are all fodders. I mean, Krishna, they are not like, somebody who is in the top echelon. Maximum generals, Pakistan generals, their family lives in London, their family lives in United States of America, their family lives in all the big countries. If they squeeze them like even one bit, the entire narration on terror will change, will completely shift, or at least will substantially shift, if I may use the word.
Yeah.
But is it happening? No, it is not happening.
Fair
we
point.
know the money is there. We know they are there. We know the source of the money. But are they doing anything about it? No, they are not.
I think General Roy wants to come in.
General Roy, please go ahead. Lieutenant General Roy, please go ahead.
Let me answer some of these speculations which have been spoken of in last about 10 minutes. First of all, the geopolitical and security situation of the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia in this region has changed hugely. It's changed hugely in last about a decade or so. And let me tell you how and why. In 80s, when Pakistan was being used, I will not name those powers which were using Pakistan as a frontline state to have their presence in this region and also to wage the war against Russians through Pakistan into Afghanistan.
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, they took better part of a decade to push them out, and they had a major interest in Pakistan being a frontline state for them. And that's the reason why they were pumping in so much of money and why were they mollycoddling Pakistan. They even gave a favored status in NATO also to them. Now, those situations are history. They're gone in the past. As of today, as we are talking now, as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan is no longer required by anybody in this region, anybody at all, except for maybe China because of China-Pakistan economic corridor, because of Chinese weapon and equipment which are being sent to Pakistan, which are being given to Pakistan for testing it. And we have seen the result of GF-17, 2 of them are already down. Let me tell you, we must understand this part that Pakistan no longer is a frontline state to anybody. That is issue number one. Therefore, Pakistan expecting help from anyone will not come now. The second point is world no longer is into any kind of superpowers. There are multipolar world now, and India itself is quite a power to reckon with, and everybody accepts it. The third point is that world has already indicated enough that look, the war on terrorism or any war for that matter is your war. As far as they are concerned, they have a limited access. If Israel has done what they have, let the world try, but they haven't bothered about it. A time has come now that we will also do what we want. Let the world worry about it, or we will not bother about their opinion. That is another point. The third point. The fourth point is, see the process of terrorism itself. Let's understand when you try to prop up these terrorist groups, the power of gun has got a very thrilling experience. And once they experience this, it's like a snake. Then they don't understand who has raised them, who has nurtured them, who is going to back them or not. So, because of this power equation, today Pakistan has become a state which is being now governed by the terrorists more than the Pakistan establishment itself. And in such a situation, if we have taken a policy decision that any act of terrorism will be treated as an act of war, this of course will work as a deterrence because whatever Pakistan tried in the past to have the nuclear shadow as a deterrence, and it thought that it will carry on with the low intensity conflict and will not sort of get into them for the act of war, that has fallen through already. Now, this is the next level of deterrence, and I don't think we should speculate before the policy being effective, because once you make a policy, you will make sure that to make that policy effective, we will have the wherewithal and the warning periods reduced to the level that we'll be able to act on it. And because of this reason that I'm saying that this policy which has been, decision has been taken now, we'll have to try and test it, and the first test is happening right now. Right now, though the government has said that in the future, but the point is this policy has come about now. So this is being tested as a first stage now itself. We'll see it for ourselves that to make Pakistan bend to the level that we want them to, if required, the ground action is going to start soon. And ground action is the one once we go and sit on that country called Pakistan or across the IB or the LC, where keepers will be the takers, takers will be the keepers of that land that we capture, then we'll understand this in reality as to how this will take effect in future. And that's the reason why I'm saying that whatever action we do now, which already is an act of war and we are proceeding towards it, we are already moving, we have come nearly halfway through that escalating ladder. Let me tell you that this policy indeed, once applied, will be effective enough. It will deter Pakistan, because now Pakistan stands completely isolated on an international platform. Nobody is going to mediate, nobody is going to back them up, nobody is going to give them money. Look,
but sir, they're just getting money. They're just getting money from the IMF. Just to add to the point Brijesh is making, you need international pressure. If there was enough international pressure, they would not have gotten this bailout in the first place.
This is not a bailout. The kind of economy Pakistan has, look here, India has not even participated in the voting process. That means
but sir, this gives them the fuel to continue with the war. This extra cash in their hands.
Let us, it is the same IMF which has changed the status. These processes take time. Whatever has already been put in the pipeline, it was too late to sort of move against it, and it takes time to build up those consensus. Diplomacy doesn't come about overnight. Therefore, let's not take this as an example that they have got this bailout that they had.
Okay.
And even which they have, this is a pittance, at the level that they are, it's a pittance. So let's wait and watch how it takes effect. Yeah.
I want to take this conversation to take it down to a different road. So how do you see the deployment of the Pakistani soldiers in forward areas, which was announced by Vikram Misri? In terms of military, what does it tell us?
In terms of military, now they are already thinking that should the ground confrontation happen, how would they position themselves for the defensive? Because ultimately the crux of everything that we have done until now has been based on technology, has been based on a kind of a interference, kind of a attack on Pakistan in a non-interfering way, in the sense that we have not yet gone over breaking the sovereignty of Pakistan, and that will only be tested when the ground action happens. The other things are, like preparation of the battlefield has happened already. I told you the Navy has been positioned already in the Karachi, in the Bay of Arabian Sea. Navy is already positioned. As far as the Air Force is concerned, it's already tested the efficacy of the air defense systems which exist in Pakistan today. They have tested this. The army now is moving closer to the borders, IB and the LC, and that is where this buildup is the one which is now going to trigger what will be called a actual war. It happens on the ground, because unless the ground is captured, you remember Americans, even when they had to wage war in Afghanistan, they said boots on the ground. So let the boots on the ground move, and then they will know, and that will start pinching them, because when we start capturing somebody's territory, the territorial gains will then decide that to who is going to yield to whom. And there, I know that we have taken enough time, we have made enough preparations, and now we are there. Policy effect will start in the similar manner. When you take this policy, the technology will take over first, the drones and missiles, and they will give you enough warning time for the other forces to build up, and then they are ready to move in exactly the way it is happening now.
Fair enough. So, Brijesh, I guess we have an answer in that sense that there is a policy, but you have to test this policy out, at least from now on. You draw a line in the sand and you start from now. And in fact, the line is very clear. Any future act of terror, what has happened so far has happened so far. It is in a future act of terror. In a situation like that, there will be no doubt about what will be India's policy, because it has been clearly laid out right now.
Well, I started the conversation by saying it's a tectonic shift. I nowhere said even 0.01% or doubted that this policy is upping the ante as far as fight against terror is concerned. It's absolutely correct. But the point which I was trying to make is that, the thing is that, we have to fight this war on our own. the fact is that, Western words, the duplicity of the Western words, how it propagates, about Pakistan, everything is known. I honestly don't think anybody who's living under the stone is not aware of what is happening in Pakistan, the kind of terror nursery it has been, how America has played the game, how Russia has played the game, now how it is a very important part of the BRI initiative of China. What I was trying to say is that, until and unless India works a two-pronged strategy, which is making it very clear that any act of terror will be equated as an act of war, and then we will proceed, with full throttle, is a welcome act. But other than that, I feel that, there's a lot which needs to be done as far as, the ground is concerned.
Karthikeya, that's the point.
Sure that the situation.
My take is, Pakistan historically has been a utility state. Pakistan is an historical accident we have to accept. Pakistan as a cultural entity is a non-existing concept. If you look at history books, Hindustan की सरहद चाबहार से शुरू होती थी. People would say in historical records, you have crossed Chabahar, Hindustan की सरहद में आ गए. Yes, you had greater Afghanistan. It happened because of uncertainty in the northern Indian states at the pre-colonial time, and hence because of the multiple raids of Delhi and Gujarat, the entire greater Afghanistan came into being. Abdali and other people. That is why Pakistan is so insecure. Pakistan is not only insecure in context of a western frontier. Pakistan is also very, very insecure because of lack of strategic depth and the Pakhtuns which spill over. Ultimately, Afghanistan has not ever agreed on the Durand line. Even Taliban and the Tehreek-e-Pakistan, they have not agreed on the Durand line. So for them, even the Durand line is not fixed, and even this LOC to chali gayi hai. Ab to there is no.
They have suspended Shimla agreement, so to
there is no line of control. So we don't know where the line of control is. The entire thing is ours. Conceptually, entire thing is ours. Yes, the army is present, but it's ours. So my point is that the Pakistan. Pakistan is a historical accident, but what has happened over a period of time is it functioned like a utility state. It functions for the British the way Gilgit Scouts and other people, because the British officers' behest was wrested away from India. We have to read those archival material to understand that how British officers led that entire campaign in Gilgit. That's one. Second, then it became a frontline state for America. Then it became a frontline state for America. I mean, it's very famous, General Roy, you would you'd recall, it's very famous thing, when Henry Kissinger came to India for a day, he went to Islamabad, then there was a fake news printed in newspaper saying that he has fallen sick, he went to Muri, he came back quietly, boarded a plane, went to Beijing, and the behest of Yahya Khan, brokered the Kissinger Accord, the Beijing-Washington Accord, came back. The same did. He traveled continuously, came back to Islamabad, took a plane, went to Washington, and that's how, there was a China-US understanding. So then they were the client state for America. Now, they're the client state for China. Please understand that.
As part of their BRI.
Not only BRI, first of all, Shaksgam Valley was given by Pakistan to China. It was the Pakistanis who have given the Shaksgam Valley to them. BRI is one part of it. 80% of the military hardware in Pakistan has come from China. That's number one. Secondly, who has given blanket ban to Pakistan on number of things in last 15 years? It's not America, it's China. So third, in last 75, 80 years, first UK, then America, now China. It behaves like a client state for any superpower who can protect them, and they will do the dirty
job. The better word is vassal state, so to speak.
Vassal state.
Group Captain Virenja, you wanted to comment. Group Captain Virenja.
Yeah, couple of things. I must compliment Karthik for whatever he has said. Look at the bigger picture. I have got no resistance or no antagonism to the statement what is coming, that every act of terror will be treated as a war. Good words, fancy, very, very fancy looking words. But there will be practical difficulties. Today, Pakistan is not the only terror sponsoring state. Today, Bangladesh is changed here. Jamaatul Mujahideen, Harkatul Islam, Hizbut ul Tahrir, Jamaat Islami, Al-Qaeda link Ansar Allah group, about more than half a dozen of the Arakan Rohingya armies. It's full of all jihadi elements. Right now, it is just about a dozen and a half, but in coming time, it will be about 2 dozen plus. So, any time that the act of terror emanates here or takes place on Indian territory, who will be responsible? Some of these group, they will claim the responsibility, and then what do you do? Suppose if it is a group who takes the responsibility from Bangladesh, what do? Do we shift all the entire army structure towards the eastern side? Leave that. Today, there are many other eminent groups here in India itself. We have banned PFI. There, in Kashmir itself, there is about 9 or 10 groups which have emerged locally. These are recognized as a local terror groups. What do we do? If they take the responsibility, and look, all the jihadi organizations are part and parcel of the same coin. It's the two sides or many faces of the same coin. Remember of Syria. What happened in Syria? When Al-Tahrir came there, they said it is the ISIS components, which is not matched with the Hezbollah group who were earlier supporting the regime. But what happened? Within a day and a half, this Hezbollah, Iran, all their components of Hezbollah, Hamas, as well as the other one, they said that, okay, we support Tahrir. So when it comes to uniting together, there will be confusion in the coming days that the terror act will be carried out by Pakistan, but someone else, somewhere else, will take the responsibility. Then what do? I just counted about a dozen and a half of the terrorist organizations who are not in Asia. They are in Africa and somewhere else. If they claim the responsibility, what do? Do you go chase them? It's not practicable. What India should do is, India should make a very credible system of responding its own way. How it is going on there, it should be made credible. But then mount that cost. Don't treat it as a war. Mount that cost onto the emanating group. If it is emanating from Pakistan, launch attacks similar to what has happened on 7th onto those groups. If it is emanating from Bangladesh, and we have got the investigation agencies to point to that, mount the attacks onto them. Look, you have to defend our own civilians here. So that must be defended in all cases. Right now, what is happening? You don't know where it is going to come from. So I think, lastly, I will just say one thing. It's good hearing the government of India or whosoever has given this statement that we will treat as a war. It's good words, but it is not practical in the terms that when you have to act that war, when you have to mount that war, you will be almost incapable of mounting that war. You have to shift your entire machinery of defense services. Right. You have to split it into that.
Right. Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy, I'd like you to respond to that.
Okay, first of all, when you make a policy declaration, it is not nation specific. It is not a terrorist outfit specific. It's an intention that nation has declared that hereafter against terrorism, this is our policy. A policy statement has got that kind of a value, and that is why I called it a deterrence. The second point is that whether it's Bangladesh or any other country which we are surrounded by, it is not that this is going to happen in isolation. First of all, we have over the years strengthened our internal security mechanism also. If you just see, the NIA has come up, so many other organizations, I don't want to name them and give a lecture on them, that internal security mechanism of the country has also been upgraded over the years hugely. Thirdly, the technology does permit in today's world to track the perpetrators of or the origin of whatever happens here. And it is like a fish in water. No terrorist organization or no such organization which wants to carry out such a big thing as attack against a established state can do it on its own. It has to be backed up by somebody. It's like a fish in water. No fish can survive without water. So, there are lots of nuances of it which have to be considered when we are talking of that this kind of a policy, how is it going to take shape? It is not a policy in standalone mode. This policy is backed up by the internal security mechanism of the country called India. It is to be backed up by the response mechanisms which are starting from technology to the ground action, which is one of the last action. And today's technology, like I said earlier also, today's technology does permit, firstly, the interception of the messages and the kind of activities which happen to take such an effect on ground as far as terrorists are concerned. And then thereafter, the response to that country, whichever has done it, because even if some terrorist outfit tries to claim the origin, staying in some other country, claims just can't be made like that. You have to trace the link, you have to trace the link. And finally, the issue here is that over the years, we have seen this. No amount of crying to anybody else helps. You have to do your own war fighting. You have to do your own protection mechanisms. Therefore, now is the time that we have to declare it. We have to understand that we do not accept anybody's interference. The world is multipolar. There is no single superpower that exists. And now the situation here is that we have seen what has happened in Bangladesh. Who has come to their rescue? Nobody. And now also, in Pakistan, whatever is happening, who has come to rescue? The direct intervention by anybody else is never going to take place. In terms of the material help that they can get, how much can you fight on a borrowed material as far as the war fighting is concerned? And new technology and the new material, it takes time to absorb it. It takes time to refine it to the extent that our soldiers can use it. So there are, there'll be a separate debate required as to this policy which has been declared by the government of India. What are the threads or what kind of a grid that is required to be established for our own internal security mechanism, and what kind of a thread or what kind of a response mechanism that needs to back it up. Definitely the work will go on that. But as of now, whatever is going on, this, once it finishes and before any next thing happens, I'm certain that the time available between them will be able to do that. As far as the forces are concerned, no. Forces in our case are not required to move to other fronts, because already we are working, we have made a lot of raisings and we are working on 2.5 front war already. Therefore, I don't think that shift is required. As far as the air assets and naval assets are concerned, they have such a long reach and they have such a strategic kind of a response mechanism. They also will not have to be sort of shifted. Please remember that they're also, the theaterization process of the Indian Armed Forces is also already on, and the work is going on towards that end also. Therefore, I think in times to come, we'll be able to strengthen all these small little gaps that may exist and that may be felt to be exist as of now.
Stay with us. Let me take this across to Brijesh Pandey, my colleague as well. Brijesh, it's clear that all said and done, this is an important policy decision that's being taken in the context of what is going on over here. Big decision by the Modi government. Any act of terror will be considered an act of war and a response will be provided accordingly. And as far as the viewers are concerned, Brijesh, that's the main takeaway, isn't it? The ground has shifted as far as India is concerned.
Well, absolutely. And I think, what is happening is that with this kind of policy announcement, one thing the government has made it very clear that, irrespective of what has happened till now, there's going to be no going around, beating around the bush. One thing is very clear, that if you attack the soil of India, then it is going to be considered as an act of war. And that is the reason why, the policy provides a larger, more aggressive approach in tackling and pursuing these terror outfits and making sure that there's a larger cost to pay if you indulge in any act of terror as far as India is concerned. Yes, we need to know the details and all the, the wherewithals of how the government intends to, put this to practice. What is the time span which we are looking forward? I think, a day or two, there'll be a lot more clarity as far as that is concerned. But yes, policy-wise, if you ask strictly policy-wise, it's a big affirmation as far as the government of India is concerned, that they're going to make no distinction between terror and war. And that is a big policy announcement post Pahalgam massacre, which took place in state of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right. Brijesh Pandey joining us. We are getting you that big breaking story, but for now we are taking a very short breather. News and updates will continue on the other side. Keep watching News 9.
बेबो का एक ही रूल, रोज खाओ अंडे विदाउट भूल। Cause eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Summer में एनर्जी हो जाती है कम, खाओ अंडे एनर्जेटिक रहो हरदम। Strength और पावर मिले हर रोज with proteins and minerals का daily dose। Eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Yes, eggs are cool, cool, cool. Sunday हो या Monday, रोज खाओ अंडे।
Mama must be missing us, na?
Let's take you for a spin, give me one day. Feel the itch under my skin, it's a rendezvous. You believe it when you see me and done, hey. It doesn't matter, just gotta get going. New GT line, Tygoon and Virtus. Volkswagen.
20 साल से लगातार एजुकेशन का सक्सेसफुल शो TV9 फिर लाया है सबसे बड़ा एजुकेशन एक्सपो। यूनिवर्सिटी, कॉलेज या एडमिशन की तैयारी, एक छत के नीचे मिलेगी सारी जानकारी। दिल्ली में एजुकेशन एक्सपो 2025 10 और 11 मई मल्टीपर्पज हॉल, भारत मंडपम।
Operation Sindoor. Precision, courage, sacrifice. India's finest on India's front line.
India is giving a strong response to Pakistan's provocations, shooting down 50 of their drones. Our air defense system has so far intercepted all the attacks made on it successfully.
India is now well within its right to be able